What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Rams Brothers. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother and the other great host of the show, Nick. It's been a while since we talked to you all. Obviously, the Rams lost in the divisional round to the Eagles, so the season's been over for a couple of weeks, getting ready for the Super Bowl this Sunday. But all the drama surrounding Cooper Kupp being traded, which has been ongoing for about 3 weeks, is going to be the bulk of this conversation. Also, Matthew Stafford's future, some potential Kupp replacements, and some of the other guys that have been being poached from the coaching staff. But before we jump into any of that, first and most importantly, my brother is rocking a Dodo coffee hat. How are you, Nick?
Yeah, drinking Dodo coffee, wearing the hat. I'm going to miss 10 a lot. Cooper Kupp. It's so many. Probably the biggest factor in us winning that Super Bowl in 2021. Super Bowl MVP, Triple Crown winner. It sucks. It sucks to be sitting here knowing that he's not going to retire in horns. But, I hope at some point we can think about retiring his number for the organization and, move on with our 2025 season in the best way possible. It just sucks that Kupp isn't a part of that.
Yeah, the financial side of it and the business side of it just makes things so difficult. But yeah, we'll like to see Cooper Kupp maybe come back as Coach Kupp one day for the Rams. But yeah, this was his message, and this is what he sent out, because this has obviously been ongoing for a couple of months. There were trade rumors surrounding Cooper Kupp back in October. So Coop said, and I'm not going to read this entire thing, but I think the thing that stuck out the most was that he doesn't agree with the decision and always believed it was going to begin and end in LA, which is why this stings so much. You lose a franchise player, one of the weight-bearing walls, a guy that's a mentor to the entire receiving room, the Breakfast Club, the relationship with Matthew Stafford. It's all gone, and that's the unfortunate part. But he said he still feels like he has a lot of great years left. 2024, he said, was one of the best training camps of his career. Preparations all start now for 2025, but you just got to you take your hat off for one of the guys within the organization that represented it really, really well. He was really, really great for the community of Los Angeles. He was an incredible person on and off the field. He's a great dad. He does everything right. He is the kind of player that every single coach dreams of. Just an incredible player on and off the field, but like in terms of a route runner, a coach on the field, doing everything he can to be the best player and win Super Bowls for this team. That was Cooper Kupp. So it's a really tough situation to swallow. And, you got to look elsewhere now at this point. You got to see what the future holds for the Rams.
Yeah. Part of the message that he put out was be like, I hate that it's ending this way. If I was going to retire in horns, I feel like I have a lot of great football left in me. And that's where the disagreement came in with Kupp and the front office, because they sat there this season, they watched him play, not nearly as impactful as he had been in the past. And they don't, injured at the start of the season. They don't think that it's a lot like how the Patriots operated back in the day when they were the ultimate dynasty. There's zero room for error, no complacency. If you are past your prime, we are going to move on. It doesn't matter who you are in this organization, how much great you have done for us. We're going to trade Jalen Ramsey. We're going to trade Cooper Kupp. We think this is what's going to help us win championships in the future. And that's where they're at right now. Like they saw that they were a play away from representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. And they think that the best thing that they can do is offload the Kupp contract. You have Jordan Whittington. Maybe you go out and you get another wide receiver piece, but it is to move on from Cooper Kupp, and it's bittersweet. But I mean, I can't really sit here and disagree with it. Like, I kind of feel like that is the right move to do if you're serious about winning championships. So it sucks, and it's a weird, bittersweet feeling. It feels similar to when Donald retired, even though that was like an obvious decision from him. But we're sitting here now 3 seasons in a row. You're losing Ramsey, you're losing Donald, you're losing Kupp. I pray that we're not losing Stafford. Those were all of the weight-bearing walls that we have talked about. And it's just it's a new organization starting 2025. I mean, we don't even know if Stafford's coming back.
Yeah, perfectly said. I mean, there's not one thing within that sentiment that I would critique. Like, you talk about the future, you talk about the financial side, you talk about the business side of football. That's where it gets distraught. And that's where, some of the difficult conversations take place. But you talk about a Jordan Whittington, you talk about a Puka Nacua, you now have these faces of the franchise that are younger, that are up and coming, that you're all going to have to figure out how to pay in the near future. The Jared Verses of the world, the Byron Youngs, the Kobe Turners, the Braden Fisks, like all these guys are going to come due roughly around the same time period, which is going to make it really difficult to be able to hang on to these aging veterans and some of these difficult contracts that they have put themselves in, the situations that they put themselves in. So this is kind of the sentiment you're seeing around the league. Puka Nacua was like, I thought it was just NBA trade season. Like, this is Puka Doncic talking about how it's really difficult to, have to see one of your best friends and mentors go to a different organization. And, you see it. You saw the Lakers make a big splashy move, and now the Rams are offloading one of the biggest contracts and one of the biggest faces of the organization in Cooper Kupp. Like, it's definitely difficult. And you have to think that the Rams are going to make some splashy move at some point, because after trading Cooper Kupp, the Rams will have the 8th most available cap space in the NFL, hovering right around $50 million. So with the Cooper Kupp contract, they're going to, obviously, the cost of Cooper Kupp being traded, the new team that trades for Cooper Kupp is going to inherit his $20 million salary in 2025. So his roster bonus plus his base salary, and 19.85 in 2026, unless his contract gets renegotiated. But Nick, to your point, you said this really well. Like, I really don't want to say goodbye to Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald, and even Jalen Ramsey, all in consecutive years. Like, that's really where the pain of being a fan comes into play.
And I mean, I think we are going to have to do that, because I think they keep Stafford one more year. There's no guarantee that they're going to do that. I saw a report today that they're thinking about, other teams are inquiring about him right now. But realistically, he has 2 years left. Like, honestly, like, football in him, like apex top quality football in Matthew Stafford. You probably have 2 years left. I think this decision, though, to move off of Kupp is something that you do if you're bringing back Stafford. I guess it's also something that you do if you're not bringing back Stafford as well. Maybe less so, because you want a rookie to have that safety blanket and learn from Cooper Kupp. But to me, it reads more of that. We're bringing Stafford back. We were so close to being in the Super Bowl this last year. Let's bring back Stafford and, change up, like, reorganize the cap, get Kupp off of the team, see how much more talent we can bring in through trades or through free agent signings, because now we'll have all this, cap space open up. Hopefully, I mean, we don't know how much they're going to have to eat in order to make this trade work. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I said this, and then I said this to you and Dad, and then Sosa ended up tweeting almost exactly what I said. So it's a sentiment shared by the whole team, or the whole fans. Cooper Kupp had an integral play in every single game leading to that Super Bowl win, from the divisional round to the NFC Championship to the Super Bowl. Like, the play in all of those was a Cooper Kupp touchdown, a long pass, or a first down. And, of course, then followed up by an Aaron Donald stop. So it just really sucks that we're sitting here. I mean, I got this Dodo hat. I bought you Dodo coffee for Christmas this year. And, like, it's like kind of done. It's like we're moving on from the Dodo.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, yeah, dude, I got Cooper Kupp. I got a Cooper Kupp signed helmet behind me. I'm wearing the Cooper Kupp brand, the shirt. You're wearing the hat for the coffee company. That's where it hurts the most. And Nick, to your point, the 2021 season, some of this stuff are records in NFL history. They're playoff records. These 33 catches in the playoffs is the most in NFL history. His 478 yards in that 2021 playoffs were the second most ever, and his 6 touchdowns were the second most ever. His 2021 was one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver season in the history of football. The regular season, 145 catches, led the NFL, 1,947 yards, led the NFL, 16 touchdowns, led the NFL. He was the offensive player of the year. There was nothing that he couldn't do back in that 2021 season, but we're now 3.5 years removed from Cooper Kupp being that dominant. He had issues separating as of recent. He's had, some major knee surgeries, and he's had bursitis in his knee, and he's had high ankle sprains. Like, he's had all these lower body injuries that affect 31-year-old men from separating against some of the best, most talented players and people in the world. Some of these defensive backs, some of these safeties, these linebackers, they're some of the most talented athletic people in the entire world. And to be this age, to be on a really expensive contract that is, 15, 20% of your entire salary cap, doesn't necessarily make sense any longer. So, like, do you ask him to take a pay cut? I feel like that's just disrespectful to the contributions he's made to the organization. Like, go let another team pay his entire contract, and then in result, you're going to get some kind of trade compensation back, and it's likely going to be a shitty day 3 pick. Like, the expectation should be really low in that regard, but that's the reality of the situation.
I wonder if they had that conversation where it was like, Kupp, we love you. We're willing to take you back if we restructure. If we don't restructure, you're going to go on the market. And I mean, like, because honestly, I feel like he would have taken that. I think he wants to be here. I don't know. I mean, like, I can't speak for another man's wallet. I don't know exactly how much, if he planned for that money to come in no matter what. I mean, he's guaranteed that money either way. Like, the contract is signed. So I think also there's a level of him thinking, like, as much love as there is here in this building, they don't believe that I can reach my full potential here anymore. So he probably wants a fresh start, as is too. I mean, it's the same thing that happened with Goff. I mean, it's like, he's like, pay me the money that you owe me, but I'm not going to take a pay cut. Like, I'm going somewhere. Yeah, I saw this picture. Today. I guess that's why it's on the top of my mind. I don't know if the Lions have the cap space for it, and they're not even one of the top odds contenders. But I mean, you think he's going to stay in the AFC, or you think he's going to get traded to the AFC so the Rams don't have to face him? I think it's more likely that he goes to a team like the Cowboys or the Saints, even though the Saints are in cap hell, just like kind of like a middling team in the NFC that it wants to bring in somebody that will, generate jersey sales as opposed to being like a real factor on a team.
Yeah, I mean, my thought originally was like, and you could be totally right about Dallas, about New Orleans, but my thought was like, if you keep him in the AFC West, one, you're getting him out of the conference, but two, like, say for example, you trade him to the Chargers, he stays within, for the majority, of the same facilities. He doesn't have to take his kids out of school. He doesn't have to uproot his family. Like, there's all these doing right by the player aspects of trading Cooper Kupp, which it seems like the Rams' brass wants to focus on. It's like, okay, how do we do right by one of the best players in our organization's history? But Nick, when you and I were talking right before we jumped on the pod, you were like, where did they just send Ernest Jones? Wasn't it Tennessee? Weren't they just talking about doing right by the player? And you send him to one of the worst organizations in football, the team that has the first overall pick in the NFL draft. And then Tennessee offloads him onto Seattle. So it's like, how real does the Rams' front office and coaching staff feel about that? I feel like they think differently of Cooper Kupp versus an Ernest Jones, both Super Bowl champions, both somewhat faces of the franchise, but Coop just seems like he's on a completely different level, to the point where if you move him to an AFC West team, to a Denver, to a Vegas, to the Chargers, he at least gets to stay, and he's from Washington, right? So, like, at least he gets to stay within the vicinity of where he was raised, grew up, played college football, and played professionally. So
they did right by Jalen Ramsey, 100%. They unloaded the Ramsey contract. They moved him to Miami, somewhere with no taxes, seemed like a good up-and-coming organization. I think Fangio was the defensive coordinator at the time. It's like they were doing the right, like, they got Hunter Long and like a bad pick with it. Like it was not a good deal for the Rams. So, I mean, that is an example of, like, this was a Super Bowl player that helped us get over the hill. We're going to do him right. Ernest Jones, less so. So, I mean, yeah, there is a world where they try to get him to, like, the Chargers, like an up and coming good, like, place where it's easier for his family. I think if they're really serious though about winning, like you got to find the best deal possible. And I don't know if the Chargers are going to give you that, honestly.
Yeah,
Like
and here's the
I
thing
think
too.
you'd have to eat more of the contract if he's going to the Chargers than if he's going to like a Dallas, who strikes me a little bit more as like a sucker that will take on the entire contract.
Well, then that's the thing. Like that's the baseline of the trade. Is like we're moving Cooper Cup and we're moving all of his dollars. So like the
Yeah.
trade comp doesn't necessarily matter because the trade is the contract. So that's what makes it so difficult. It's like, and is it even really a sucker that has to take it on? Maybe, maybe not. But it's like you have to find that organization who can take on the contract, is willing to potentially redo his deal, and then is also willing to offload a day 3 pick or a late day 2 pick or whatever it may be. So it's definitely tough. I mean, there's no right answer at this point. We're probably going to find out sooner than later. But it seems like, and I don't know how tied, and obviously Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp are the best of friends, but like I don't know how this directly correlates to Matthew Stafford's contract situation. Maybe it means that there's more opportunity for Stafford to be a larger cap hit because he was like the 15th biggest cap hit in 2024. So like maybe there's more opportunity to pay Matthew Stafford. Maybe he's more willing, maybe he's less willing. This is all information that's going to come out in the next couple of days. I do think Stafford will be back, but the Kupp situation is just really tough.
He has to be back, right? I don't think you do this if he's not coming back.
Just don't know. Well, you know what would also help Matthew Stafford? If you're able to bring in some of these quality players. If you're able to bring in T. Higgins, which it seems like Rams fans can't stop talking about T. Higgins. If you could bring in a Garrett Wilson type player, even a Myles Garrett, who Dante Fowler was a guy that they were trading for back in 2019. You look at the Von Millers of the world. You look at Jared Verse and the emphasis they put on the edge rusher position. Maybe you trade away a couple of top first-round picks, future firsts, and a Byron type player for Myles Garrett, and then he's your second biggest cap hit on your roster. You look bring in a type player who can play the F, the Z, the X, so they can play a little bit of positionless football. To me, that would be a really interesting pairing, considering Garrett Wilson's relationship with Michael LaFleur. Higgins would be a bona fide, and same with obviously Tyreek Hill, bona fide field stretching X receivers, which would be an incredible thing to extend Matthew Stafford's career. So yeah, I think that's got to be one of the things that you're at least dangling in front of Matthew Stafford. Like, we're going to get you more talent. We're going to get you, an offensive line. This offensive line is going to be exactly what it was advertised in the preseason of 2024. Our defense is going to be even better. Like, we're going to be competing for a championship, whether Coop's here or not. So
I think it's time to push the chips all back in again. Like I don't think the NFC is a juggernaut. The best team in the NFC, we were literally a play away. Maybe if that game, like maybe if we don't get those injuries and that game's in LA and the snow and the elements and Kyron doesn't fumble, we end up with a win and now we're in the Super Bowl. So and that's with a team that you weren't really even expected to be there in the Super Bowl this season. So I think you do have to push everything back in and get one of those players, maybe two. And it makes sense as to why you move on from Kupp in a situation like that. So like, it's just other teams around the league. Lions are all in. Eagles are all in. It like the Packers should be all in. It's like I was talking to my friend who's a Packers fan, and I'm like, how would you say the season, like the success of the season was? He was like, good. It was like it worked out well. Jordan Love seems maybe he's not fully improving, but like we got back to the playoffs, and I'm like, that's not like, why is that your goal? It's like you paid him the big bucks.
They were a full playoff team worse than they were the year prior, and the roster is older and more experienced now.
Right. Like I'm shocked that like when are you going to push all in with Jordan Love? It's like, what are you waiting for at this point? And I mean, that's how I feel right now with Stafford. It's like you got a quarterback that proved that he can do it and win in the Super Bowl. It's like you only have him for like 2. Like, I don't want to see them draft a quarterback. I want to see them use their picks to go out and get players that will help right now. Talk about the Jordan Love method and the Aaron Rodgers method. Draft somebody early. I don't want them to do that. Like, I want them to go out and get somebody like this, one of these 4 players, use that pick and try to win a Super Bowl. I don't care. Like, I don't need somebody mentoring under Stafford for a year or 2. Like, worry about what's happening right now. Like, go out there, win a Super Bowl, prove to everybody that you're doing it the right way, and move on.
Yeah, I'm very much in the same boat. I want to keep this up just because it's important, right? Because you're going to need to push the chips all in again. You're going to need to find these new faces of the organization. And these players are all proven. They're all guys that can come in and help you immediately. You could trade future draft assets away. And that's what you're going to have to do to keep the Super Bowl window open. So that's going to be what we talk about over the next couple of weeks. We'll have more information related to Stafford, related to Kupp, in the coming weeks. Obviously, when the Cooper Kupp news gets released officially, we find out what team he goes to. We'll talk to you guys again. Same with the Stafford situation. The entire front office potentially being poached. Nate Shieldhouse and Nick Caley being poached by the Liam Cohns of the world and the Buccaneers organization. It's a pain in the butt. So we'll keep you guys updated with everything. As always, thank you for listening. We greatly appreciate you guys. And as always, go Rams.
Go Rams. Dean, give me a prediction. Where do you think he's going to go?
The Chargers.
Chargers. All right, I'll say Cowboys, and then we'll see. And then he'll end up with Goff in Detroit.
Yeah, and then he'll end up in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. I think regardless, as long as you get him with a good quarterback, everything will be fine. So it's going to be interesting. I hate this picture of Goff and Kupp. I really do.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Go Rams.